Good morning. This is a Pilates class that I'm going to offer for my Wednesday group on May 19th because I'm going to be out of town. I am, however, going to be teaching in Santa Cruz. So if you want to join that class, you can as well. But I'm going to do two 30-minute videos. One, I'm going to dedicate to Posy, this one. She wants more awareness of cross-body balance, cross-body activation. So that's what this video will focus on. All right, so I'm going to give you two 30-minute videos. You can do both of them if you want to while I'm gone on Wednesday or Friday, or you can join the Wednesday class in Santa Cruz and do these on Friday. Okay, let's begin standing. And let's look down at our feet, planting our heels under our sit bones. Let's lift our toes. Lift the arches of the feet. Feel your inner arch from big toe ball mound to inner heel. Feel your outer arch from pinky toe ball mound to outer heel. And feel the arch from big toe ball mound to pinky toe ball mound. Three arches that give you some cushioning for your feet. And then let your toes relax. Keep awareness of the four corners of your feet in your arches. And draw energy up your calves, through your knee, and down your shin. This, if you're a hyperextender, will help you draw the tibia forward a little bit so you aren't locking it back behind you. And then let energy flow down the backs of your legs, down your hamstrings, through the knee, up the quads, and through the groins. This will help you stack your femur bone over your tibia, healthy alignment for the knee. And then let's pour the pelvis forward. Feel as if the pelvis is a bucket and you're pouring water out of it. And then lift the pelvis up and bend your knees and let it pour backward. Your shoulders will probably come forward in a hunch. And then bring your pelvis upright. We want it straight up like a potted plant, and then let your spine grow out of the pot. Let it grow skyward and really feel your way all along the spine, lengthening and creating space between each vertebrae. And then place your tongue where the hard and soft palates meet on the roof of your mouth. And right at the back of the hard palate, imagine a hot air balloon lifting you from there. And really let it lift you skyward. And let your shoulders dangle away from the lift at your head. And let your pelvis dangle away from your shoulders. And really feel your leg bones dangle out of your hip sockets. And your four corners of each foot touch the floor, three arches alive. All right, and then let's inhale our arms up and exhale, open into goalpost position and feel into your shoulder blades on the back body. Bring your pinkies towards one another. Feel how your shoulder blades flow off the back. Bring your palms back open and again, close. Now, as your arms move, can you stay aware of not hyperextending the knee, of not throwing the pelvis back and forth? But just let the arms and shoulder blades move along the rib cage, out and then back in. We don't go so far in as cracking a walnut. We just come in to shoulder blades resting on the back. Now feel into your right shoulder blade and feel into your left hip pocket. And from the left hip pocket, and by that I mean this left buttock, feel down your leg into the heel. And feel back up from the four corners of the foot into the hip socket. And bring the right shoulder blade slowly around towards the left hip pocket. You're connecting that right shoulder blade across to the hip pocket in a gentle twist, becoming aware of that line of energy in your body. Your head can turn, but we're not trying to crank. It's early in the practice. We don't ever crank, but we definitely don't at the beginning of practice. And then we come back around. And then become aware of your left shoulder blade on your back body, your right hip pocket, your right leg, grounding through the four corners and drawing energy back up from the earth. Bring the left shoulder blade around towards the right hip pocket. Again, check in with your knees and your pelvis. Fluid breath. The head can turn gently. You can even look out the left corners of the eyes. And then exhale back into center and release your arms and roll your shoulders. Okay, now place your thumbs on your front ribs and your ring and middle fingers on your hip pointers. In Pilates, this is your square. And I want you to take the right rib across towards the left hip pointer and then open back up and take it across. Now we're becoming aware of this front abdominal diagonal. Fluid breath, inhaling open and exhaling, bringing the ribs towards the hip pointer and come back open. Now switch. We'll bring the left ribs towards the right hip pointer. And in this exercise, maybe we even slightly bend the knees. We keep the four corners of the feet alive and we become aware of this diagonal of energy. And we use these to help us stabilize in our Pilates practice. And then we open up. Okay, let's pick up our hand weights and let's stand feet a little wider and take the right foot out. Let's bring the arms back up into the goalpost position and stay aware of grounding through your left foot, four corners, three arches, and see if you can lift your arms and lift the right leg. Okay, now you're stabilizing with the left side. You're feeling strong from hip pocket down into the four corners of the feet, and you're moving the right leg and the arms. I just want you to feel into that at the beginning of class, and then we'll switch. Right leg stabilizes. We ground down through this whole side body, and we lift and press, and release, lift and press. Now notice, do you tend to roll in on your standing foot or out? Try to plug in all four corners. My foot today wants to roll in and collapse in the inner arch. Yours might do the opposite. Good. We stay really aware of stabilizing the right side as we move the left leg and come back in. Okay, fluid breath. Roll your shoulders. And then let's float the arms up, feet outer hip distance wide. And from your knuckles, gently hug in to the shoulder socket. So you can feel what it would be like to overly grip the arm bones in. Your neck would get overly activated, but it's a gentle hug in and then an extension back out from the midline of your torso through the arms. From the midline of your spine, let's say between the shoulder blades at the heart center, down the spine through the pelvis into the four corners of each foot. So we radiate outward and we hug back in towards the midline. This is part of the integration. We radiate out. So I'm pressing down into the four corners of my feet, rooting my legs, not hyperextending my knees. And then from those four corners, I hug energy back in towards my pelvis to integrate. Good. And release and roll. And let's put the hand weights down and lift up the TheraBand. So we're just kind of waking ourselves up before we lay down on the mat. Bring the TheraBand up over the back of your head. Hopefully it's long enough to take your arms wide. And just allow the arms to weight down on the head. And plug in the four corners of your feet. You may lift your toes, lift your arches, become aware of the arches, and then release. Energy runs up the calves, through the knee, down the shin, down the hamstrings, through the knee, up the quads, through the groins. The pelvis sits atop like a pot that the plant of your spine can grow out of towards the sky, pressing right into the TheraBand. Now start at the sacrum and feel up along the spine and try to create space between each vertebrae. And notice if you tend to be more compressed in certain places, maybe you stop there, you breathe there, you try to open that area a little bit more. Fluid breath. Lengthening the neck right up into the TheraBand, shoulders resting away towards the pelvis. We press up into the TheraBand from the four corners of the feet without hyperextending the knees, without tilting the pelvis. Now, see if you can stand strong on your right leg and come to the toe of your left. Can you activate shoulders across to the opposite hip pocket and lift and touch and lift and touch and lift and touch. And now try the other side. Stand strong on the left leg. Come to the right toe. Find your shoulder blades. So this is an awareness activity. This isn't so much a fitness exercise activity. Find your shoulder blades. Cross over to the opposite hip pocket and see if having that back awake helps you balance as you lift and touch, lift and touch, and lift and touch. Good. Okay. So the last standing thing we're going to do here before we come to the floor is bring the TheraBand around the low back ribs and bring the palms forward and up. Elbows at the inseam of your shirt and hands a little wider. Four corners of the feet plugged in, metatarsals parallel. We press out as we breathe into the low back ribs, and then we come back in. So we press the low back ribs back. We don't curl the spine back, but we stabilize those low ribs back. And we realize, wow, those low ribs can serve as an anchor point. So we inhale into those low ribs and we pull on those low ribs so that we can resist back into the TheraBand and become aware of those low ribs. And we exhale back in. So move at your own pace. You inhale out and exhale in. Inhale out and exhale in. Now inhale out and you can exhale, but keep the pressure back into the low ribs. Keep the heart and inner collarbones lifting. Put your weight on the right foot. Come to the toe of the left and see, can you connect shoulders to hip pockets still? Really ground through the four corners of the standing foot and lift and lower. And notice, with the low ribs pressing back into the TheraBand, you may have more stability. And lower. Plug in the four corners of the other foot. Come to the toe of your right foot. Stand strong. Don't let this hip lean out. Hug it in with the outer hip muscles. Lengthen up into the TheraBand over the top of your head, your imaginary TheraBand now, and lift and touch and lift and touch. Hearts up, inner collarbones lifted, shoulder blades aware of hip pockets. Good. And release. Okay, let's put the TheraBand down and just put your elbows into your golf tees. And let's do one more awareness activity before we come to the floor. Palms up. We're going to take the hands open and notice the humerus bone externally rotates out and find your shoulder blades on the back body. The elbows still beneath your shoulders on the golf tees. And you can even look into your camera, your little picture, and see, are my elbows below, or are they splayed out, or are they tucked really far into my waist? Try to have the elbows right below the shoulders. Fluid breath. Now here, as you have the palms open, can you breathe into the heart center and inner collarbones and lift and stretch open this front chest, which oftentimes gets tight and pulls our humerus bone out of alignment. Let your head and hyoid bone rest back, your neck crease rest back. Fluid breath. Breathe into the whole circumference of the lowest ribs, stretching your diaphragm open. You should feel the diaphragm gently ballooning down over the organs of the abdomen, which displaces them a little bit. So your belly expands, your lowest ribs expand. Let the ribs expand out to the side, out to the back. And we're breathing with our diaphragm. Three-dimensional breath is essential for Pilates, for healthy core work. One more deep inhale. Feel into your spine, your shoulders, your low ribs, and then exhale the hands forward, release, and roll your shoulders. Okay, the geese are back on my pond with their babies. Lay down. If you need a pillow for good head alignment, please bring one in. Make sure it's firm and make sure it's not too high. Okay, so sometimes we get over exuberant in these things and we don't want to use the neck as a lever. So, but we also don't want the forehead lower than the chin. So we line these two up. We let our arms come out to the sides and we relax the shoulders and the head of the arm bones back because we've really been working with those. And we float one leg to tabletop and then we float it back down and float the other leg up and float it back down. Now become aware of your shoulders, head, and neck. Can they ground and relax back? So you're not forcing them back, but you're inviting them to be heavy. And we float a leg up and we float it back down. Now you can bring your hands to your abdomen and feel what's working as you float the leg up and float it back down. Now think of that low back rib ring we were grounding back into the TheraBand and use that as you float one leg to tabletop, balance, and float the other leg up. Now if this hurts your lower back, feel free to bring a blanket block our ball under your sacrum. We're going to really stay grounded in the right side as we open the left leg and pause. Now, can you really become aware of the four corners of each foot, how your legs come into the pelvis, grounding the right pelvis, the right low ribs, the right shoulder, and exhale back to center. Now, really ground left, shoulder, ribs, sacrum, and take the right leg out like the page of a book. Pause. Can you relax neck and jaw and have your shoulders broad for stability and come back in? Now, can you keep the still side still as you move the other side? So the left leg opens and closes, the right leg opens and closes. We inhale out and exhale in, really focusing on keeping the whole body still except for the moving leg. Fluid breath. And notice if it's easier to keep one side still than the other. If so, practice the side that's harder to keep still. So you're focusing on the stable side, not the moving side, and you're thinking, how am I going to stabilize better for this moving limb? And it may be cross-body action from ribs to hip pointers or from shoulder blades to hip pockets. Good. And then hug the knees in, circle wide and back together again. So in your own Pilates practice, if you feel one side is weaker, really don't hesitate to do some more repetitions on that side. Start with your strong side and then do a few more repetitions on the side that you feel like needs more practice. Okay, so we're going to go through our series of 5 just to get a little warm up, and then we're going to come back to this crossbody work. So bring your left hand to the inner right knee, right hand to the ankle. Nod your head yes and almost lift from your hairline. Lengthen out the left leg and we switch and we switch. Some of you will raise the head. Make sure you're lifting from the hairline and you're keeping your spine long. We switch and switch. So the crossbody action here is still here. We want to lengthen out one leg as we hug the other leg in. Can we stay aware of pelvis and SI joints as we move so that we're not really throwing the pelvis around? We're moving the femur bone in the hip socket. We're lengthening the leg and drawing it back in. We're keeping the spine long. And then let's hug both knees in. Let's reach hands and feet for the sky. Zip from inner thigh to heel. Bring wrists away from feet and circle and hug. Again, you could float the head up. This is contraindicated if you have osteoporosis or penia. Better to keep the head on the floor. You can almost lift from the hairline to wake up the front neck flexors. But really focus on the lengthening of the legs and keeping the low ribs back as your grounding point. Fluid breath. Let's do one more. Inhale out and exhale in. Good. Then lifting the legs straight up. Let your arms and shoulders rest back. Bring the right foot overhead, left foot long. Make the left leg really long and pulse, pulse and switch, pulse, pulse and switch, pulse, 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 pulse. Again, feel into your SI joints, into your sacrum. And are you moving so much that you're contorting the pelvis? Try to keep the pelvis still and let the leg bones move. It may mean that you have a little bit smaller motion, but you're being kind of honest to the motion through the pelvis then. Fluid breath. Good. Now you can stay with this or you can reach up the leg and gently pull it towards you. If you have tight hamstrings, the knee can bend. We pulse, pulse, and switch. Those of you who lift, lengthen out through the spine. Find space between the vertebrae. Contraindicated for osteoporosis and penia. Fluid breath. Keep length in the spine. Try to keep stability in the pelvis. Even here, that crossbody awareness helps us keep space between the ribs and the pelvis. Fluid breath. Good. And we come back together and we rest back and we bend the knees, shoulders open wide. You can go to single leg toe dips here, or you can try double leg toe dips. Now, if you do, make sure you're not arching the back and flinging the legs down and up because that's not really core. We want to keep the low back ribs grounding and really work from the front abdominals. So you can put your thumbs on your lowest ribs, your middle and ring fingers on your hip pointers, and you can feel stabilizing this Pilates square Not letting yourself come into a back bend, flaring the front ribs forward, bringing the low back ribs into the body. We don't want to do that. We ground back so that we can stabilize legs that float down and float back up. That's different from this. Okay, now I'm using my back, and now I'm grounding through the ribs and low back, and I'm using my core, float down, float up. Slower is harder. Okay, one more time. You can stay with those or lengthen your legs, zip up from inner thigh to heel, flex the feet and lower, point and lift. Again, the motion may not be far. You may stay high. We're not flinging. Some people may feel like, oh, I'm getting more work this way, but really you're starting to use your back. You're kind of gripping in the leg muscles. We want to float. We want to stay integrated to the low ribs. We don't want the shoulders to curl forward to try to help. We ground the shoulders back. Fluid breath. Neck stays long. Last one. Good. And then we float the hands behind the head, and we don't interlace them. We place one on top of the other. And we lift right elbow towards the sky and lengthen right leg. And we lengthen the spine and create space between the vertebrae. Now, again, check in with your pelvis. Am I totally contorting? And am I going to flop my body around? Or can I make it a precise movement where I lift my elbow and lengthen the leg and keep long in the spine and grounded in the pelvis? And switch and switch. So we don't risk throwing the SI joints out of alignment. We stay very aware of the pelvis. We stabilize as we move the femur bone, as we lift the elbow and wake up our obliques. Fluid breath and consciousness. So yes, I could be flopping across and I may feel like I'm getting more work, but really I'm using momentum to help me. Here, you're really reaching up, lengthening the spine, waking up the obliques, keeping the pelvis and the rib cage a little more stable, waking up the core. Fluid breath. You can bring the legs lower if you can keep the low back rib ring active. And please don't crank the head up towards the knee. Instead, lift the elbow and keep the spine long and use your obliques. And last set. And let's come back to center. Float, head and arms down. Float one foot down and then the other. Release your head from the pillow if you have one and inhale into your bridge. And exhale, lower. And inhale, lift. And exhale, lower. And inhale, lift, and exhale, roll down one vertebrae at a time, and come into your natural lumbar curve. Now exhale, roll up one vertebrae at a time, pause at the top. Now we're going to get some side body awareness by imagining two yellow highway lines, and those are on either side of our spine, and we're going to roll down the right highway line on the right side of the spine. We just roll down the right side body. We come down and we center the pelvis, and then we roll onto the left and we roll up the left highway line, peeling the sacrum off, and then the lumbar vertebrae, and then the thoracic vertebrae up into our bridge. We even the pelvis again, take a deep inhale, and now let's exhale down the left highway line, rolling down, even the pelvis, and roll up, peeling off the right sacrum, the right low back, the right thoracic spine up into your bridge, and come even. Take a deep inhale and exhale. Lower the sacrum towards the floor and inhale, lift. And exhale, lower and inhale, lift. Follow your own breath, exhaling down and inhaling up. Now lift your left pelvis and your right. And now we're sashaying across, lifting one hip and then the other. Fluid breath. Can you feel into the relationship between these hips and between the hips and the shoulders? Notice how the shoulders and upper body are your grounding point. Your feet are your grounding point for the moving hips. Notice how the spine sways. Feel for asymmetries in each side of the spine here, each side of the buttocks or the shoulders. Take inhales and exhales. Feel your buttocks awaken. Good morning. Glutes. Come back to center. Lift the pelvis and bring your sit bones towards one another. Feel the glutes. Really draw the sit bones together, then relax them apart. And one more time, draw them together. We're not gripping, we're just drawing, we're activating. Then we release and we roll down one vertebrae at a time. And we pause in our natural lumbar curve, taking a three-dimensional inhale and a relaxing exhale. Let's reach for circle TheraBand, and let's also reach for our block or our ball. So remember, you're going to use a block if you're new to this and you need more stability. You're going to use a ball if you want a little bit more balance challenge, okay? So we come back down, we lift the sacrum and we bring the ball underneath and we pause, arms open, and we take a deep inhale into the whole circle of the ribs, and we exhale and we float one leg to tabletop. And we pause here, we stabilize the low back rib ring, and we bring the other leg up to join. Now make sure you're not in a back bend, that you can reach your front ribs towards your hip pointers. And then let's open the legs and toe dip, right toe past left and come back up, and left toe past right and come back up, and right and up and left and up. Can you stay aware of stabilizing the square, ribs to hip pointers? Can you stay aware of shoulder blades on the back, on the floor, helping you stabilize for the moving limbs? And can you keep one side body really still? That's part of the cross-body awareness as the other side moves. Really work on consciousness of stability. Good. Now bring your legs parallel. And with the TheraBand on now, and a little bit less stability because of the blocker ball, we're going to take one shin out like the page of a book and come back in. Now you can bring your hands up. Let's do this. Palm facing palm. Take the other shin out and really feel into the back of the arms and the shoulder blade and what works as you take the leg out. Can you connect the work of the arm on the moving side to the opposite hip pocket? So in other words, can the shoulder blade reach in awareness to the opposite hip pocket as it stabilizes? And can that cross the back awareness help you create stability for the moving limb? Try to make those connections. If they're not there, imagine them. And then as you take, let's say, the left leg out, feel across from the left hip pointer to the right low ribs and hug back as you draw the leg in. Taking the right leg out, draw in from left ribs and right hip pointer towards the center of that diagonal. And again, left leg out, draw in left hip pointer towards right low ribs, right leg out, draw in as you come back, right hip pointer towards left low ribs. And continue on, feeling into your own awareness of these myofascial chains. Fluid breath, breathing into the full 3 dimensions of your torso. Because that inhale, the full inhale, will help you stabilize. The exhale will activate transverse abdominis and help you stabilize. And let's finish with one more set here. Good. And hug the knees in, lift the legs up. Take right leg overhead, left leg long. Now I want you to stay in this kind of scissor position and open the legs wide and switch foot's on top. And just do this a few times. Can you keep aware of the square as the legs move? Can you stay aware of the outer thighs because the TheraBand's wrapped around your legs? Good. Now come up heel to heel. And let's take the right foot in front of the left, left foot in front of the right, and walk down the mat. You can be a little wider today because we have the TheraBand on to keep it in place and come back up. Stay aware of your low back ribs and stabilizing the square. One leg down and then the other. You're kind of in a turnout. And then we walk back up. And again, down, 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 and up, up, up. 1, 2, 3, and 4. 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 Now bring your legs straight up. Keep the right leg stable. Keep the arms active and take the left leg out. See if you can feel from left shoulder to right hip pocket and come back in. Now take the right leg out. Feel from right shoulder to left hip pocket. Feel the whole left side trying to stabilize and come back in. One more time. Left leg out, right leg still. Only go as far as you can keep the right side still. Come back in. Left leg still. Take the right leg out. Doesn't have to go far. And come back in and bend your legs. And let's take the TheraBand off and bring our feet back to the floor and pause for a deep inhale and a fluid exhale. Okay. Now, elbows into the ground, but also head of the arm bone into the ground. So we're not curling the shoulders forward. We're grounding the whole humerus bone. And we lift the legs, heels together, knees open, and we toe dip. Right leg, left side stays really still. And we toe dip. Left side, right side stays really still. Can you keep aware of elbow and humerus bone, hyoid bone resting back, and can you feel into the stable square? So make sure that your low back ribs aren't flaring as you toe dip. Can you stay aware of sacrum stillness on the ball, letting the one limb move and then the other? Head of the arm bone still resting back. And last one. Good. And we float one foot down and then the other. Let's lift up off the prop and release. And let's lengthen the body out and stretch the arms overhead. Take a deep stretch and a deep breath. And then let's roll over and come up onto hands and knees. And I'm going to take a quick look at the clock. Okay, and I'm also going to plug my computer in because I plugged it in on one end and not the other. Okay. This is definitely a home video. All right, let's see. Where are we time-wise? Oh, my dear. Okay, we've gone over. I'm just not a 30-minute kind of class person. All right, take your TheraBand, your long one, and place it long across your mat. Place your hands on the TheraBand and come into your tabletop. And inhale your cow pose and exhale your cat pose. And inhale cow and exhale cat. A few more times. Inhale and exhale. Okay, now bring your left arm under the right and let it hang like an elephant trunk. Really let the left shoulder blade kind of hang off the body. Let the left ribs hang away from the spine. And take a few deep breaths here. Okay, now as you come back to neutral, feel into the shoulder and bring the hand out. And as you lift the head of the arm bone into the back plane of the body. So we're not dropping it forward, we're lifting it back. We don't lift the wrist higher than the shoulder. Try to keep stable on both legs and feel the work that you're doing in the core. Your obliques have to work to help you balance this. Make sure that your right elbow isn't hyperextending. And then exhale your hand back down. Pick up the TheraBand. Turn your hand out to the left a little and lift the TheraBand, keeping the left head of the arm bone back, keeping aware of your obliques. Fluid breath and release. Place your left hand on the mat and bring your right elephant trunk under the left. Let the right Shoulder and ribs release away from the spine. Take a deep inhale. And then exhale, float back up to neutral. Feel into the head of the arm bone lifting back as you lift the wrist. So a lot of times we fling the wrist back and we drop the head of the arm bone. We're trying to gain awareness in the shoulder here. And as we do, we're figuring out how we use our obliques to help us stabilize. Left elbow is not hyperextending. Fluid breath. Can you keep length in the spine? Can you keep weight on both legs? Can you feel into both shoulders? Can you stretch shoulders away from hip pockets? Then lower the hands, take up the TheraBand, and with the fingers still turning out to the right, remember the TheraBand doesn't have to be too tight. What you're wanting to do is gain awareness in the back of the rotator cuff, the back of the shoulder. We lift and we take fluid breaths. We stay stable on both legs. We stay aware of the core working to help us with the shoulder. We keep the neck long and we release. And we come into an inhaled cat, cow, and an exhaled cat. And a few more. Inhale and exhale. Really breathing into the spine. Now, become aware of hip pockets and shoulder blades on the back and take your left foot back, your right fingertips forward, and see, can you float them off the floor? Again, can you be aware, front ribs to hip pointers of the square, shoulder blades to hip pockets on the back, and can you be aware of the lifted shoulder reaching across to the lifted legs hip pocket? And perhaps exhale, elbow towards knee. They don't need to touch, and lift. And exhale and lift. Can you stabilize from the back body as well as the front body here? And last one. And then lower back down. Okay, let's take the right foot back, the left hand forward. As you're ready, find your rectangle on the back, shoulders to hip pointers, and lift. And pause. Feel into your low back ribs, lift them skyward. Draw your front ribs into the body a little bit. Connect them to the hip pointers. Release the shoulders away from the ears. And then perhaps elbow comes towards knee, and we lift. And we draw in, and we lift, and you move at your own pace with your own breath. Exhaling in and inhaling out. And then perhaps we pause again on the out, feeling into the shoulders, connecting the lifted arm shoulder to the lifted leg hip pocket, connecting all four corners of the front square to keep stability. And then we release. And one more time. We inhale cow and we exhale cat. And again, we inhale cow and we exhale cat. And then let's roll back into child's pose. Let's ground our hands, roll our toes under, and lift into a long downward dog, knees bent, spine long. And then perhaps we take the legs long and back. We step forward, bring our hands back. Bent knees, we lift, palate in line with heart, in line with pelvis. And we reach skyward. And we exhale the hands down. Okay, so we're back to standing. So this is going to be a longer class than I thought. Sorry, 45 minutes probably. Let's bring the TheraBand back around our low ribs. Okay, now you're grounding back. Your shoulders are awake. The head of the arm bones are awake. They're connected to the hands that reach out. We breathe into the low back ribs, ground into the right leg, and come to the toe of the left. Heart and inner collarbones lift. We lift the leg and lower. Or we imagine lifting the leg and think of what stability we need to find the lift and the lower. And perhaps we lift and straighten. Do the work where it's best for you. Let the hyoid bone rest back. Let the head reach into the TheraBand overhead. Bend the knee and step down. Stand strong on the left leg. Lift to the right toe. Reach back into your TheraBand, up into the imaginary TheraBand, and lift and lower. Feel into the standing four corners of the foot, energy running up that calf through the knee and down the shin. Heart lifts, shoulder blades alive on the back body, and perhaps we lift and hold, perhaps we straighten. We feel into our own strength and how we stabilize from the back and the front body, and we release. Okay, let's pick up the hand weights one more time, and let's come to standing, strong on the right leg. Hand weights to the shoulders. Let's reach them up this time. And let's see if we can bring the arms open and lift the left leg and then touch down and open and down and open and down and just open the arms. Come into your goal pose actually. Now feel into the right shoulder blade in the left hip pocket. Take the right shoulder blade towards the left hip pocket. Unfold and stretch. Right shoulder blade towards the left hip pocket. Unfold and stretch. One more time. Building awareness. And now one more time. Let's lift the arms, lift the leg. Find your shoulders. Connect them to both hip pockets. Find your low back ribs. Find the hyoid bone in the head resting back and the heart lifting. And release. Now let's try the other side. Let's reach up and reverse jumping jack. We bring the arms down as the leg comes up. We lift. Are you aware of your low back ribs? Can you feel in from left shoulder blade to right moving leg hip pocket? Can you stabilize from right shoulder blade to standing leg hip pocket? Good. And last one. And then let's open the arms and take your left shoulder blade around towards your right hip pocket. It doesn't have to be much. Just try to think, okay, I'm aware. Left shoulder blade to right hip pocket. Unwind again and unwind. One more time and unwind. And now let's reach both arms up and lift the leg. Connect both shoulders to their hip pockets. Stretch both shoulders away from their hip pockets without bringing them up to the ears. Stay wide and broad at the base of the neck and release. Let's come into our little Pilates V. Hands a little in front of the torso, low back rib back, and we inhale and exhale. And we inhale and exhale. And one more time. We take an inhale and an exhale. Good. Let's put down the hand weights. And let's rest the shoulders and sacrum back and bend the knees and lift the heels and zip up the legs and lower the heels. We bend and lift and zip and lower, bend, lift, zip and lower, bend, lift, zip and lower. Now really find hip pockets to shoulders. Feel the cross action as well. Hyoid bone and head rest back. This torso is strong. And we lift and bend and lower and zip and lift. Bend, lower and zip and lift. Bend, lower and zip. Let's inhale in to growing awareness of our cross-body myofascial slings. Let's inhale in to using this in our everyday life, consciously and unconsciously. And let's inhale into a wonderful week for all of you. Thanks. Have a nice day.